discipline is only discipline if you don't enjoy doing the thing. If you enjoy doing the thing, all my guys who like working out, sorry, you're not that disciplined. You just enjoy working out. You really test your own discipline when the newness or the excitement of something wears off. What's going on, y'all? It's Coach Grant. Welcome back to another episode of the Kettlebell Guys podcast. I'm recording this on a Friday afternoon. I got about 15 minutes before my next call. And I figured I would, instead of just scrolling Instagram, I'd hop on here and, do a quick podcast. So today I wanted to talk about this idea of discipline and this idea of, consistency. And a lot of times, guys come to Kettlebell Transformation and they are looking for something to help them be consistent. I hear this every day in guys in prospects calls with us. They say, I need help being consistent. I need help being accountable. I need help following through. And so I figured I would kind of think through, there's kind of two ideas that popped into my head or two ways to look at discipline. If you were to kind of break down what it means to really be disciplined. And they say discipline over motivation, right? And so the first one is from a big business mentor of myself and Sean's, Mr. Alex Hormozi. And if you don't know who Alex Hormozi is, then you probably don't follow a lot of entrepreneur stuff on Instagram. But if you do own your own business, most likely you know that name. And Hormozi he has this way of explaining discipline where he uses it by telling a story where he used to own gyms back in the day. And all of his trainers used to, talk about how disciplined they were, showing up to the gym at 5 a.m. and training and getting after it. And they used to complain about how some of their members weren't disciplined as they were. And he looked at them and he was like, guys, do you really think you're that disciplined? I mean, think about it. You guys actually love training. You love working out. So how disciplined do you need to be to continue to show up and do something that you actually love doing? And I thought that, the first time I ever heard him talk about this, I was like, man, that's a great point. Because I think anyone who trains consistently, anyone who works out consistently, they talk about being disciplined. They talk about being, the discipline over motivation and all this stuff, right? But does it really take a lot of discipline if you actually love doing it? Because as for me personally, I love working out. I don't always want to work out because there's still that element of you're putting yourself through physical, not pain, but physical challenge. That is, if you're like me and you like working out, you obviously want to continue to progress. You want to continue to get better. So you always have to be, lifting heavier, challenging your body, getting after it in some way, shape, or form. And so most of the time, you're pushing yourself to different limits. That is hard, and that's not easy to do. And so do I always want to do it? No. But I don't think it takes a lot of discipline from me to show up and do it because at the end of the day, I love doing it. I love working out. I love getting after it. I love laying on the floor after I've crushed my body in a session and being like, man, just like obviously the high that you can get off of that. And I love the way that my body feels the rest of the day. I love waking up sore. I love that feeling. I've been probably constantly somewhat sore for, I don't know, how old am I? 34? So since at least I was 18, so 16 years of waking up probably a little bit sore almost every day. And I love it. I don't got to be disciplined to want that. And so what Alex does is he kind of reframes this idea of discipline around this idea where discipline is you showing up and doing something that you don't naturally enjoy doing, that you don't like doing, and continuing to show up and do it for a very long period of time without seeing immediate benefit from the work that you're putting in, without seeing that initial benefit or result from the work that you are doing. And so it's your ability to continue to show up day in and day out, week in and week out, and put in this, what feels like thankless work with the belief that it's going to pay off over time, with the belief that there's going to be a benefit to you over time in the long run, but you don't get to see the immediate benefits of that work, or at least you don't get to feel them immediately as fast as you want to. And you inherently don't like doing that thing. So I'm going to give you an example for me personally. I personally think that it would be awesome to be able to play an instrument. My mom made me play the piano. Kettlebell Grandma, by the way, shout out to her. She made me play the piano when I was younger, and she kind of forced me to do it. And when I was younger, I didn't see the value that I do now. I wish I would have stuck with it, but I played it for however many months. It probably felt like an eternity to me. I'm sure it was maybe a month or two. And I ended up quitting piano because I didn't want to do it when I was younger. But now, right now, these days, as I'm older, young adult, the idea of being able to sit down and play guitar or sit down and play the piano, that sounds awesome. Like to me, that sounds amazing. That would be a very cool skill to have. But the work that it would take to become someone who can sit down and just grab a guitar and just start playing, or sit down at a piano and be able to just start playing, the work that it would take to get there, boy, I do not want to do it. I don't have a fiber in my body that like pushes me to go and practice playing guitar. I just don't. Like, it sounds, to be honest, like I have a ton of resistance to the idea of going and doing that. And so I think that potentially a lot of people feel that way when it comes to working out. Like, I love working out, but I feel like a lot of people feel that same way as I feel about like trying to learn how to play guitar. They probably feel that way about working out, where they don't really have a fiber in their body that drives them to naturally want to show up and do it. And so it would take, I think from me, it would take a lot of discipline and a lot of sitting down and practicing without feeling like I'm getting better, almost without like, God, it's almost going to feel really, really hard for the first month or 2 months or 3 months before I start to finally get into a groove of learning how to play this instrument. I'm going to have to deal with that. I'm going to have the discipline to actually sit down and go through that time period without seeing like immediate benefits, without being able to play probably anything for a while. And I think from my perspective, it would take probably a little bit of discipline to sit down and actually set aside time daily or weekly and actually sit down and do that every single week over and over and over again. So that's number one, is the idea of discipline comes in when you don't actually enjoy or want to do the thing, yet you continuously show up and do it, regardless of seeing an immediate benefit or an immediate outcome. So that's one way of looking at it. Now, the second way of looking at it, because I'm going to start to run out of time here because I got a call in 6 minutes. The second way of looking at it is discipline is when you continue to show up and do the work in a specific thing long after the initial excitement or the novelty of doing that thing wears off. And we see this all the time inside of KT, or all the time inside of, we've run challenges. Sean and I ran a gym for a long time, for 9 years back in the day, where people would join the gym, they'd be super stoked, they join a challenge, guys join KT. And they are a hot ball of fire. They're a shooting frickin' star in the beginning. They are stoked to get the process started. They're stoked to hit their workouts. But guess what? After you get 30 days in, you get 60 days in, that initial excitement, that initial like surge of endorphins, that surge of being stoked that you made this commitment to yourself, that surge of newness, of novelty. After that novelty wears off, boy, you're going to need discipline to kick in. Because you're going to probably start to feel how you would in my first example, where you don't have that natural inkling to want to show up and do this thing because you're less excited about it. You're less motivated by it. You're less, all the newness has worn off. All the shine has worn off. And so one of our guys, Bob, he always talks about this. He said in the beginning, he's like, I can't wait until the novelty wears off because that's when it's finally going to become real for me. That's when it's finally going to become real that either I'm going to be disciplined and I'm going to continue to show up and do this stuff and it's going to become part of who I am, or I'm going to run into a really tough patch. And we always tell guys in the beginning, we always tell them, listen, our goal is to help you be consistent enough over a long enough period of time to where this just becomes normal for you. This just becomes what you do. Because like, if you think about it, you don't have to have a lot of discipline to show up and brush your teeth every morning. You probably just do that. You probably just show up and brush your teeth. And I probably used that example on podcasts before, but the truth of it will never ever not ring true, which is you have to get to a point where the newness and the excitement will completely wear off. And then you have to continue to show up and do the work then. And you have to have this long enough period of time in that space where you are less excited about doing it for it to then settle in to where it just becomes habit, to where it just becomes part of you, to where you start to live this life where you're like, I couldn't imagine not showing up and doing this. Because if you only are going to do it when you feel motivated, or if you're only going to do it when you're feeling stoked, or if you're only going to do it when it's new, well, that's usually the pattern that most guys want to break. They usually want to break this start-stop pattern. They usually want to break this, all or nothing type pattern. And they just want to be all in on something that's going to last. And I think that that's probably anything in life that's going to be beautiful to have and something that you create over time is going to be, as soon as the newness wears off, how long are you going to continue to show up and do that thing to where then that becomes part of you, that becomes part of your DNA, that becomes part of just where you could not imagine your life without it. And so with that being said, I only got 2 minutes to my next call, and I got to hop off of here. That's number one, is discipline. Discipline is only discipline if you don't enjoy doing the thing. If you enjoy doing the thing, all my guys who like working out, sorry, you're not that disciplined. You just enjoy working out. And then number two, you really test your own discipline when the newness or the excitement of something wears off. And once that wears off, like for all my guys in KT listening to this, if you're in your first 6 months, like you should be looking forward to the time when the newness wears off. You should be looking forward to the time when the excitement wears off. Because guess what? That's when it's going to get real. That's when the goal that you had in your first call with us, when you said, I truly want to find a way to be consistent, I want to find something that's sustainable, I want to find something that becomes part of a lifestyle for me, that is when that will be tested, and that is when that will be built. So as soon as that excitement wears off, that is when you will start to actually get into the meat and the value of what we do inside of KT. Or for anyone who's doing it on your own, you get past that point, that's when you start to build, that's when you start to create the person that you want to be ultimately. Hope that makes sense. Hope you guys are crushing it. It is Friday. It's a beautiful day. I'm grateful for everyone who is listening to this, for anyone who listens to this podcast and listens to Sean and I ramble. We are grateful for you. With that being said, I hope you have a great weekend, and we'll see you on the next pod.